Hello and welcome to In the Arena podcast. My name is Ben Stroud. Guys, this is the first episode. I'm so happy and very excited to be finally cracking on into some content and hopefully providing some value to you guys. And look, I've been trying to make this perfect. I've recorded so many times this first episode. I've been trying to make it perfect, and that's because that's what I want to do. I want to make it good. I really do. But I understand that there's no chance that I'm going to make it perfect first go. And that's part of this process. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of learning for me. It's going to be a journey of self-development as well, because stepping into something new like this has an element of imposter syndrome. And it's not only because it's something new to me and doing a podcast, but it's also because of what I'm going to be covering. And there's a sense of doubt because the topics that I want to talk about, the reality of challenges, of trying to pursue excellence and success, I haven't had the necessary success to be able to talk back on these things and be able to reflect on it, because I haven't achieved what I've set myself and what I want to in my career. And with that's pretty much the exact reason why I wanted to start this podcast, because I'm going through it right now. I am legitimately at a point in my career where I'm suffering with self-doubt. I'm trying to ask myself why I'm doing this, where it's leading, where it's going, what kind of person do I want to become, and basically all these questions about the future and why, and trying to figure out these questions about my purpose and what this is leading to. And that's exactly why I wanted to start it, because for selfish reasons, I want to dive into these subjects. I want to dive into these topics, and I want to have conversations with people about their own experiences, about their reality, about their journeys and what they've been through, how they've navigated tough times, adversity, challenges, and how they've gained success in places in their journey and in their life, which I'm very interested in. So it's not just for me, but that's the whole idea. It's for you guys. It's to create a platform where there is this information. There are these stories and real life examples of people going through battles, going through challenges, and how they navigate them. Because what I believe in is that everyone is on their own independent journey, right? Everyone's walking down their own path in life. And what we're trying to do at the end of the day is, on that path, in our arenas, we can set ourselves goals, right? We can set ourselves goals. We can give ourselves a purpose, a mission to strive for excellence and to aim at something, right? So what I believe in is that in our arenas, the thing that we're all actually just trying to do and trying to achieve is fulfill our own potential, and trying to understand what that potential is and trying to maximize it at the end of the day. And these are the questions that I'm asking myself, right? Like, what is my purpose? Why am I doing this? Why am I on this journey? All these questions about how am I going to be able to reach my potential at the end of the day in my chosen arena. And look, this is, as I said at the start, like this first episode, this is a new arena to me. This is a new journey for myself, starting a podcast. But I'm come from a football background, a sporting background, and that's another arena that I'm in. And that's one of the cool things about life, right? Is that we actually all have multiple arenas in our own life and in our own journey. And that, as I said, that could be from a podcast. It could be in education, could be in sport, business, finances, relationships, can be so many different areas, which is amazing. And that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to get a lot of people to share openly, honestly, and speak with vulnerability about the reality of their journeys and what they're going through. Because to me, one of the biggest problems that we have at the moment is the fact that social media is a highlights reel, and we don't actually get to see the genuine struggles, the genuine reality of people's journeys, of people's lives. And what we see is we're constantly surrounded by success, and we see these highlights, as I said. And I don't think that actually portrays exactly what it takes to get to that point of success. So that's what I want to bring to life, and hopefully people can come here to this platform, listen to real life examples of people speaking from emotion, from a place of honesty and vulnerability, and maybe they can see that person's journey, that person's path, the steps that they've taken, and maybe they can relate to that. They can say, wow, I'm actually walking a very similar path, and I can potentially use that person's experience to then further myself, to make my next decision in terms of, wow, I really wanted to quit, but I'm not going to. I am going to launch that business. I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. I'm going to make that move overseas, whatever it is in your arena. And that's the incredible thing. And that brings me on to the title of why in the arena. I'm very fortunate to have some very, very close friends in life. And when I was discussing the idea of starting this podcast and starting this platform, that I reached out to a few of them, and to some of them who I knew were going to challenge me and ask me questions and make me think deeper about why I'm doing this and how I can actually create the most value. And originally I wanted to go down the path of mental health and sport, because I believe that it's a subject that needs to be talked about more, and it will be something that is a reoccurring theme here for sure. But we were talking about it, and it comes back to the quote and the speech of Theodore Roosevelt, and that's the man in the arena. And I'm not going to read the whole quote, but here's a few short statements from that speech. And it goes, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who comes short again and again. Because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly." Now, I highly recommend that you go and search up the full quote and the full speech, because it's so powerful, and you can tell by just those short sentences that it really is. And that's where I'm talking about, like, this pursuit, right? This journey. You are in that arena, and it can be multiple. But it's you who counts, and it's you who matters. It's not anyone else. It's not what anyone else says on social media, at work, in the stands. It's you who matters, because it's your journey, and it's you who's trying to get the best out of you and fulfill your own potential at the end of the day. And that's why I'm so grateful for having those people to talk to about this topic, to help me think about this in deeper detail, I should say, because I think it becomes more relatable to a lot of people, and we don't just go down the subject of sport and mental health just because I'm familiar with that. So it's going to be a challenge to dive into other areas for sure as well. But at least every arena can be transferable to someone else's journey, and you can take similar themes, similar messages, and hopefully find them relatable to yourself and to whatever it is that you may be going through right now. So yeah, those are just some of the topics that I'm going to be talking about. So mental health is one of them, sports one of them. I'm going to cover things like self-doubt, pressure, isolation, sacrifice, failures, success, and I'm going to ask people to be open and to talk about their emotions, to talk about the times where they were suffering and what that was like, to be real, to be vulnerable and honest. And if I'm going to ask that from someone, I think it's only fair if I actually do that myself, and that's what I want to do. I want to tell you guys a little bit about my story, because in this podcast, right, the plan is that I want to share short 15 to 20 minute segments where I talk about things that are relevant in my situation, my story, what I'm thinking about, what's on my mind, some of the topics and challenges, and kind of dive into those. But then I want to have those interviews as well with some incredible guests, with some incredible people who have lived through incredible journeys and have these experiences where we can learn from what they've been through and learn methods to deal with challenges, to deal with really tough times, to learn about their stories and how they've got to where they are. Because I think that's so precious to hear what people do and what people go through. And as I said earlier, to be able to relate to that and understand that there are other people who are suffering and making difficult decisions to maximize their own potential. So you're not actually alone on your journey. We're all on our own journeys and we're all doing it together. So the first little segment and topic that I want to cover is setbacks and adversity, and then use that in my story in a way. So for anyone who doesn't know me, as I said earlier, my name's Ben Stroud. I'm from Christchurch, New Zealand. I'm 25 years old and I'm a semi-professional footballer. I'm currently living in Finland and I've been here for almost a year and a half now. Made the decision to move over here in 2022 and in January, and it's been quite a journey, just this last year and a half for sure. But I want to go back a little bit earlier, talk about a little bit about my family, and then talk about just a couple times where I faced adversity growing up. And I don't want to make it a pity party, because I just want to talk about a couple things where I have dealt with some tough times and what it's led to finding out and discovery later on in my journey. So I come from a very, very loving and supportive family, and I've got two incredible parents, mum and dad, who were both in high performance sport, both very talented athletes, both represented New Zealand at national levels. Mum in rugby, dad in football, and very, very blessed to have them as parents. They've been so supportive throughout my whole career, and my two sisters as well. Yeah, I have two younger sisters who are both very talented, both very, very intelligent, and just incredible sisters. And I love them all dearly, miss them all the time, and that's one of the tough things about chasing your dreams, is that you have to make sacrifices. And that's one of the hardest things about my journey, is that I've decided to pursue things overseas, and I have spent a lot of time away from home. So one of the key things growing up was, in our family, we were quite competitive. We were very competitive as kids, especially. There were multiple times where our family holidays used to get titled boot camps. And there's good reason for that, because we're a very work hard, play hard family. It's when we were away, when we'd go on trips, there was always an element of you have to earn the good times, basically, by putting in the work and things like that. So from a young age, there was definitely an installment of a mindset where if you want to earn things, you got to work hard for them. And especially when like you're on holiday and things like that, it was almost like a mindset where it's like, oh, people are resting now as well, but we're still going to be working. And that was fun. So things like we'd go down to the local high school where there was a track, would run 400 meters, would do time trials. There was a Christmas where I got a new pair of football boots, and we went down to the park and we were running shuttles, doing hill sprints, and there was always a competitive edge with me and the girls, where Dad would have his stopwatch at the top of the hill and would be racing to see who could get the best times. And although at the times it was hard work, I remember those so fondly because it was fun and it was enjoyable. With that, leading into my youth, came with a lot of training, came with a lot of dedication to football, to my sport. And it got to a point where my first year of high school, I actually got really, really sick. I got sick for about 2 weeks, and it was completely out of the blue. And one of the side effects was that all of my joints had become very, very inflamed and were extremely swollen. And we're talking fingers, knees, toes, everything. I was in a lot of pain and really struggling to move after that. And it was very interesting because there was no exact diagnosis. And it didn't actually it took about 6 to 7 months for the specialists and multiple different trips to doctors and things where we actually figured out what was going on. And I ended up being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And as a kid, it was quite scary. Well, the time where I didn't even know was even scarier because I was suffering from pain, but then I was at a new high school. I was just trying to fit in, and for me, one of the best ways to fit in was to compete in sport and to show that I'm decent athletically. And that was a tough time for me trying to fit in that way. It felt very different because it felt like a part of me was no longer there, and I couldn't do everything that I was good at and normally really just enjoyed, basically. So that was a tough time, and that just made me realize how important it is to not take for granted our health and our ability to run and to play and to enjoy physical activity. Basically, that led on to I got diagnosed. I ended up going through some treatment, some different types of medicine. Ended up getting rid of it somehow. It just disappeared within a week, which was quite incredible in itself. Basically disappeared just as fast as it came after the 2 weeks. And then I went through high school. I managed to keep developing in my football, and I was offered the chance to go to the only professional academy in New Zealand at the age of 17. Last year of high school, I made the decision to switch cities, go to boarding school and join this academy, which was an incredible move for me. Let me experience being away from home and growing up and becoming a bit more of an individual at that age, which was really cool. That time being at the academy, perks came with that where you're looked at by national teams. There's a little bit more exposure at that age and things like that. And that year there was a build up to the Under-17 World Cup. And long story short, got involved in the camp, in the squad. It was the day before the team departed to go to South America for the World Cup, and there was 3 of us guys who were waiting on a call from FIFA to see if there were 3 internationals that were cleared to be eligible. Turns out overnight, when we were with the team, basically bags packed, ready to go, the call came through where the other people were eligible, and 3 of us got dropped that next morning. And as a 17-year-old lad who just wants to represent your country and play your sport, it was an absolute heartbreaker. It was probably the biggest setback for me as well, because at the time my ego was quite high. It was at a place where I was surrounded by an elite football mentality, and I was really, really enjoying it, coming from a place where there wasn't too much of that. And it gave me the hope that I was going to be able to go on and pursue big things. And then so that wee setback right there was absolutely crushing for me at the time. On the phone to mum straight away, crying. And it's really funny, right? Because I look back at that time, and that gave me a burning desire and burning hunger to not prove someone wrong, but it gave me that burning feeling where there's something else that I want to achieve. I know that there's something else there, and it gave me that sense of I've got to work harder. I've got to figure out ways to get better, which was an incredible experience. And I'm very, very grateful that happened, because it propelled me on to go to some bigger things, and that included going over to American college. And this brings me on to the next step of my adversity and my setbacks. I had an incredible time at college. It was 4 of the best years of my life, and I look back on the time very, very fondly, because people ask me what did you learn at college, and if I'm going to talk about the education side of things, I came out with a degree in communication and minor in sociology. But if we're going to talk about things that you learned, it was how to grow up as a human. It was the self-development journey that I went on throughout that whole time was incredible. I developed as an athlete and as a football player for sure. I am very, very grateful for that time and the skills and the habits and the discipline I learned, and being surrounded by some really talented and incredible people. It was the times when I went through my really toughest and darkest times. My first year in college was an absolute whirlwind, to an absolute just tornado, let's just say that, because you're just trying to fit in socially. You're on the other side of the world. You're trying to find your feet in terms of being a good performer on the team and playing well in a tough environment that's completely different to anything you've experienced before. Just trying to figure out your education and the pressures of school. The schedules of college athletes are very tough, to be fair, and it requires a lot of organization and a lot of effort to manage your schools, to manage the late trips, the bus trips, the away trips, trainings, early weights at 6 a.m., things like that. It's being able to deal with all those things, and that first year was just a crazy time. Second year, you're kind of used to your surroundings, and it was for me, it was a little bit more manageable. But I was really dealing with quite a lot of anxiety at the time, and that was because I was trying to maintain an image of myself where I had all bases covered in life. I had my football side, my sports side. I had my social life. I was trying to get my education in order. I was just trying to be this person who was pretty much perfect and pleasing everyone all at the same time. And that was extremely, extremely difficult and not manageable. The anxiety got to a point where one night I was in my apartment, living with my best mate, and I couldn't sleep, and I was really, really struggling. I got to the point where I had this massive anxiety attack, and I'd never been through this kind of experience before, and it felt like I'd completely lost control of my body and my mind. It got to a point where it was the first time I'd ever experienced suicidal thoughts. And as I said, I lost control of my body and mind. There was something, like there was this force that was pulling me to make this decision. And it was the scariest and most daunting feeling, where I felt so small and felt like there was nothing I could do. My initial reaction, the first thing that I did was I text my coach, and I said to him, "Hey coach, you up?" He replied to me, thankfully within a couple minutes, and he said, "Yeah, what's up?" I just said to him, I've just had a massive breakdown. And he replied, and I still to this day I don't know how he replied with these exact words, but he asked me, he said, "Are you having suicidal thoughts?" And I was like, holy shit. How does he know that? And so I just said, yeah. And so he got on the phone and he called me, and he's like, "All right, let's meet for a chat. Stay on the phone and let me know when you're here." And I was like, okay, sounds good. Basically went and talked to him, talked about what was going on, how I was feeling, the issues and struggles that I was going through at the time. And from there on, I was going through this spell of depression and dealing with this anxiety and dealing with not being able to sleep, and I was extremely scared. Got to the point where I wanted to quit so many times, and had the conversations with coach and my parents and my mum back in New Zealand, where I was just in tears. I just didn't feel like I could give any more. And I'm so thankful for my coach, because he got to a point where he's like, "Look, there's absolutely no way that that I'm letting you go home, and there's no way that your mom's going to let you go home either, because we know that you can get through this." And I'm so glad that he said that, because from there I started to go see a therapist. I started doing therapy, and it really, really started to help and started to get me back on the right track. And that, one of the scariest things about that time as well was trying to talk to my friends and my teammates and to tell them what was going on. I was very scared about the judgment. I thought that there was something wrong with me. And it was a really scary time. And that's also why I wanted to quit, so no one would look at me that way, right? I could potentially go back home and no one would know, and I can go on like life's going on and then deal with it. But I didn't. I ended up talking to my roommate. I talked to, who was my best mate, Tucker Brown, absolute legend of a guy. He said to me when I told him, he's like, "Look, I'm going to treat you the exact same. You're still Ben to me. Thank you for telling me, but you're still Ben, and I'm not going to treat you any different." And that hit home with me so much. It made me feel so comfortable, like, within that, because it made me realize, okay, this is actually something I can deal with. I'm still the same guy, but it's just something normal that's going on as well. And I'll always be so thankful for that. So my coach and Tuck, and there's so many other lads as well that were so good at that time, that really helped me through a lot of things. I can name off a whole bunch, but yeah, thank you for that, because that led me on the path to an extremely successful final year at college, not just on the field but in life in general. It gave me the ability to persevere, to be resilient, to keep getting better. And our last year in college, we broke all records that the school had ever had. We were undefeated, went to the national tournament, and with that successful year provided opportunities to go forward. And that led to a couple of professional trials straight out of college. I got told no twice to my face and ended up moving back home to New Zealand for COVID. So there was a lot of crazy times during college, and if anyone's listening to this and thinking about going down that path, don't let my story scare you from that. Legitimately, I am so thankful for all of these times where I faced challenges. The fact that I went through this time of depression and anxiety, I'm so thankful for these times and for all of these setbacks that I've had, the being told no's, the getting dropped from the World Cup, things like this, because these are the times and the challenges that shape you as who you are. And these are the times where you understand, when you get through them, that they help you form some incredible skills that you know personally can help you through so many different situations. Like the fact that I went through that time, I know now, being halfway across the world from my family, that I can deal with whatever life throws at me now. David Goggins talks about this in his first book. If you haven't read it, go read it. He talks about having a cookie jar. And every time you go through something tough, you can legitimately get this cookie jar that's in your head. You can pull it out. You can pull out anything. I can pull out this depression. I can pull out suicidal thoughts. I can pull out dropped from the World Cup. I can pull out all of these times where I've dealt with such emotion and such hard times where I know that no matter what, I can get through it. I'm going to get through this because I've been through worse. And I think that's so powerful. And all these trials and tribulations, all of these challenges and setbacks, adversity that you go through, these are the best signs possible to tell you that you are on the right journey, that you are legitimately on the right path. And the fact that you're dealing with this right now is a sign to say, keep going. Because without these challenges, the pursuit of your potential will never be questioned as hard. If your potential was so easy to reach, you wouldn't have these things that are standing in your way. You legitimately wouldn't have the blocks in the road, these times where you can't even see the next step in front of you. If you didn't have these challenges to try and figure out, to try and push through, to really test your character, then you wouldn't be on the right path to fulfilling the person that you're meant to become, to being the best version of yourself at the end of the day. And it's the key signs to tell you that you can deal with it, and to be like, you know what, this is going to be so good for you. It's so hard to see it at the time. That's the only problem. When we're so caught up in the emotion, so caught up in that real time where all we want to do is quit and give in, and those are the times where, like, I'm so thankful that I made the decision to reach out to someone, to text my coach, to talk to my friends about what I was going through, because then you can share that with them, and then they can help you in ways. Because I'm telling you this right now, people really do care. There are people who care about you, who care about your journey, and who care about you becoming the best version of you. And that is exactly why I'm creating this platform, to let you know that you're not in it alone. There's so many people who are going through their own individual journeys, who are suffering, who are going through real emotions just like you. And you're not alone. And look, I'm not one to give advice to anyone. this podcast is not about giving advice. This podcast is about giving experiences, giving emotions, and giving real life examples of what happens and what goes on. And that's only going to come with the honesty, with the vulnerability, and the real emotion. And that's all I can hope to give you and hope to provide you guys with value. So look, if you took value from this today, share it with someone. Let them know that they're not alone as well. If you're struggling, talk to someone. Send a message. Send it to your coach, your parents, your friends, because people care. Send it to me. Legitimately, I'm here. I'd love to hear what you're going through. We can talk about and share stories. And guys, I thank you so much for tuning in. I really cannot wait to dive into some more topics and to try and learn how to provide the best value I can possible for you guys, and to then start having some of these incredible conversations and learning from some amazing people. So guys, keep tuning in. We'll see you next time. This is the In the Arena podcast. Let's go.